actually owned Grafton for quite some time, but we have the next important residents going to come in now, the Woodvilles, I think.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Grafton Woodville. That was the name of this village in the year 1440 when my wife, Jaquetta, and I bought Grafton Manor. Now, the Woodville family had been in Grafton for probably almost 300 years. They came from Northamptonshire and farming folk, and gradually over the years they built up possessions and wealth. And this manifested itself in various ways in Grafton particularly. My grandfather, John Woodville, for example, built the church tower which is still here today and which you will see just a little bit later on. And there is a memorial to John Woodville in the church, and this is a representation of the memorial. It's a very fine alabaster-topped tomb.
You'll see it in the church if you can't get a good view here.
It's been there since around about 1400. And we also sponsored the Hermitage. There was a Hermitage over the other side of the main road. I don't think you've been told about the Hermitage so far. We sponsored it, and we also called the village Grafton Woodville. Now,
would you like to tell them about the Hermitage?
I will tell you about the Hermitage, certainly, yes. It began life as a simple residence for a single hermit, and we think it was probably someone who was funded by St James Abbey in Northampton. And over the years, this grew. A number of buildings were erected, and there was a hospital, a refectory. It became a small community, partly a religious community, partly a social community, coping with travellers coming through Grafton. The Hermitage was started in about 1150, about the same time that the Woodvilles first came to Grafton, and it ceased operation sometime after 1464, because we believe that the wedding of Elizabeth Woodville and Edward IV took place in the Hermitage. And you will see relics of the Hermitage. The Hermitage at the moment is a sort of bumpy bit in a field. It's over the other side of the main road. If you're coming south from Northampton, you may have seen it on the right-hand side of the road as you come up the hill. The Hermitage was rediscovered in 1964. It was a classic case of an archaeological find being made accidentally. The farmer was wanting to drain a pond, and he hit a very large stone and dug it out, and it proved to be a stone which you will actually see down in the church. And this, what he discovered, was the site of the Hermitage. And there were a number of walls were still there, so 3 or 4 feet high. And there was a floor in one of the buildings, and there were tiles intertwined, some of which bore the Woodville family crest, and some of which bore the Yorkist rose. And you'll see some of these in the church. Some of them are preserved. And we believe that it was in the Hermitage that the wedding took place, because it was a much more private place than the Church of St Mary, which you're going to see. So there's not very much of the Hermitage to see at the moment, but you will see the relics in the church. Going back to my own story, my name is Richard Woodville. I began life as Richard Woodville, and I served with King Henry VI, his army in France. And subsequently I became Earl Rivers. Prior to that, Baron Rivers, but I became the first Earl Rivers. And I was very fortunate. Part of my progress was helped by the fact that I'd served the king, but also I married an aristocratic wife. Jaquetta was Duchess of Bedford. She had been married to the brother of King Henry V. She was widowed when we married. Also was Elizabeth Woodville, who became Queen of England when she married Edward IV. But there was a lot of resentment, a lot of envy amongst the high-ranking families of England, and this resulted in my being seized and executed without trial, a brutal and unjust death in 1469, instigated by the Earl of Warwick and the Duke of Clarence, my son-in-law's brother. Very unjust death. However, enough of me, let me introduce my wife, Jaquetta.
I was not always in favour at court. When I married Sir Richard, shortly after the death of my first husband, the Duke of Bedford, I had to pay the King £1,000 because I hadn't asked his permission to marry. However, that being said, we went on to have 12 children, 5 sons and 7 daughters, and our eldest daughter, Elizabeth, became Queen of England.
Thank you very much, Sir Richard and Jaquetta.